Hello again everyone. Today I bring you my review of the newest addition to World of Tanks console, the WZ-141, the new Era 2 Eastern Alliance premium tank destroyer. So this was a rather interesting tank featuring dual 105mm recoilless rifles and dual ATGMs. Now Wargaming decided to have the dual recoilless rifles as an autoloader like the Blitzen, the Tier 3 American premium light tank, and the M50 Antos, the Era 2 Western Alliance premium tank destroyer, rather than with the dual cannon mechanic like the Russian ST2 line. Now me personally, I would have loved to have seen this tank utilizing this mechanic. I also wouldn't have minded the ATGMs utilizing the auto reloading mechanic, but I think that might have been a bit too much to ask for. Anyways, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. Let's jump into the details of this tank. So let me start off by stating that while it is a tank destroyer, because of the way I think it most likely will be played, I will be comparing it to light tanks rather than tank destroyers. The other reason for this is that there aren't very many tank destroyers in Era 2, or Cold War for that matter, and the only ones that would even play somewhat similar is the M113 and the Panzer II. Though those two aren't completely similar, so I would not really recommend making that comparison. So let's talk mobility. The WZ-141 has a base top speed of 80 kilometers an hour. This is a little under 6 kilometers higher than the average for a light tank in Era 2, which is about 74.4 kilometers an hour. Now its reverse speed is only 30 kilometers an hour, which is a little over 4 kilometers an hour lower than the average for Era 2 light tanks, which is 34.1 kilometers an hour. Now having a great top speed is all fine and dandy, but it doesn't mean all that much if you don't have the engine power to get you up there. The WZ-141 has a power to weight ratio of 22.49, sitting under the average for an Era 2 light of 26.6. This means that other lights will be able to keep up with it until you get beyond their top speed. Now I noticed very early on that this meant that it would struggle when being chased down by other lights such as the Weasel, the Martyr, and the BMP-2. Since these tanks also came equipped with autocannons, they made very short work of this tank. As for its terrain resistances, it was sitting at about the average for a light tank while having an advantage at rough terrain. Now while it does have this advantage, it isn't that great and it does require you driving through rough terrain, completely killing your mobility. Now its whole traverse was just ever so slightly above the average for an Era 2 light tank. We're talking 44 degrees per second versus the average 43.4 degrees per second. Now something to note, while its whole traverse is decent, its turret traverse is rather poor. This means that you will struggle to keep your guns locked onto your target when you try to circle them. Now the WZ-141's capability of dealing damage was rather amazing, but at the same time felt rather balanced. I'll get more to this after we look into its stats. Now its 105mm recoilless rifles are capable of dealing 470 damage per shot, which is about the average for other 105mm cannons in Era 2. Not just on light tanks, but for all tank classes. The only 105mm cannons with higher damage would be those found on the American M60 series of tanks and the Stingray. Now because it does have two cannons, it acts like an autoloader and therefore has a magazine potential of 940 damage. Now it does have a rather long intra-clip reload of 3 seconds, so you're not going to be bursting your target down as fast as you would in something like the Antos or anything with an autocannon. Now its standard rounds are heat, so it does struggle against T-72s, the FV-4211, the Leopard 2AV, or really anything that has ERA or composite armor. Now it does have high explosive rounds as an option, so you can always sacrifice dealing consistent but tougher to get damage for inconsistent but easier to get damage. In my personal opinion, I didn't have much issue using the heat rounds, but did have some HE rounds equipped for dealing with those pesky Weasels and ELCs. Now as far as the gun dispersion values, the turret rotating dispersion isn't terrible. It was actually fairly decent. But the on-the-move dispersion was fairly atrocious. It made it almost impossible to reliably hit any targets while on the move. Now with a 17-second reload for only 2 rounds, it did feel like I was reloading longer than I should. I personally wouldn't mind seeing the overall reload or the intra-clip reload being dropped. Now let's not forget that it also comes with ATGMs as a secondary weapon. It comes equipped with a 2-round magazine, each capable of dealing 850 damage for a total of 1,700 damage. Now the damage on these ATGMs are lower than those found on other tanks, being similar to those found on the BMP-1 or the Ignis Projectile in the sense that they deal less than 1,000 damage. With a reload of 38 seconds and an intraclip reload of 12 seconds, combined with only having 10 missiles, it was common for me to not have a missile on hand when needed. Now when I had both the recoilless rifles and the ATGMs loaded, and being outside of the minimum arming distance, I was able to make short work of unsuspecting enemies. Now I will say that the ATGMs had a fairly low flight velocity, being similar to ATGMs prior to the minimum arming distance changes. Now because they were slower, this allowed me to pull off some crazy trick shots such as hitting targets behind cover. So there's that if you're capable of doing such things. Now because the WZ-141 is a tank destroyer, it gets the benefit of having decent camo. It is not Weasel or ELC level of camo, since it's the size of a modern SUV and all, but it's much better than any medium or heavy tank you'll be facing. Another thing to note is that the WZ-141 has the manual siege mode in its repertoire. This gives it an extra 7 degrees of gun depression for a total of 12 degrees. This gives it the ability to use positions that other tanks cannot. Another thing is that the turret is located at the rear. While this does not mean all that much to some, this does allow you to poke the guns out from behind cover while minimizing the amount you're exposed. It's a bit of a niche thing, but something to think about. Now what are my final thoughts regarding the WZ-141? Well, I think this tank has a fairly high skill floor, so I don't think this is a tank that is for everyone. I think it will only be effective in the hands of those who have the patience and perseverance to truly master the horrendous shell velocity and the limitations of the ammo it has. It must also deal with the current infestation of weasels in the matchmaker, so if you're somebody who struggles with dealing with them, you're going to really hate yourself whenever you play this tank. Now as for my rating of this tank, I want to start off by saying to take my review of this tank with a grain of salt. If you're a veteran of this channel, you'll know that I can make basically any tank work. I have tried my best to keep my rating as unbiased as possible, but I am only human. What I am trying to get at is just that your experience may vary. So I would like to give the WZ-141 a rating of a soft 6 out of 10. It's just not for everyone. Anyways, I hope you appreciate my review. If you have any comments, concerns, or feedback, I'm all ears. Like always, I'll be linking my Discord down below. It's a great way to communicate with me, as well as a way to get a chance at my giveaways. I'll also be linking my Twitch channel, as I will be streaming on there more often. Like usual, I'll have the gameplay uncommentated and uninterrupted here in a bit. Good luck out there, and I'll see y'all on the battlefield.
前线。